Alright guys, today is Geometry Unit 1, Lesson 2. This is in two parts. The first we're going to deal with is lines, and in part 2 we're going to talk about angles. So the first thing we want to talk about is the rule or postulate or rule. Every point on a line can be paired with a real number called the coordinate of the point. And you guys have done this for a long time. If I have line segment AB, if this is 0, then A is at 1. And B is at 8. And so the distance between A and B is a distance of 7. And so the length of AB is 7, and that's our measure. And then XY, obviously X is going to be at -3, Y is going to be at +6. And so again, we're measuring the distance between the two. So we add, but in this case we're going to subtract because we're really adding 3 and 6. But in order to do that, we have to do 6 minus -3 to get the distance. And so that distance is 9. So what we use this for is the segment idea. If 3 points A, B, and C are collinear and B is between A and C, then the length of AB and the length of BC is equal to the length of AC. And so let's apply this really fast. So if this is my line with points A, B, and C, if AB is 2 and BC is 5, then what is the length of AC? Well, AC is 7. Likewise, if I would have given you 7 and 2, then you could have found out that this was 5. So what we're going to do first thing tomorrow is, and I want you to look this over and answer the questions, is do those two questions. Because I want you to be able to just give that example of how do I find the segment of the length of a segment given two pieces. So find that missing piece. To do it with variables is the very same thing. If I have J, K, and L, and JK is 6x, and KL is 3x, and the whole length of JL is 27, well, it's really simple. Up here, 2 plus 5 was equal to 7. So down here, 6x plus 3x is equal to 27. And so 9x is equal to 27, and x is equal to 3. And so then once I do that, I can verify all of this because now this part is equal to 18, this part is equal to 9, and 18 plus 9 is 27. We're going to use that to answer these two together in class. When two segments have the same length, then the segments are what we call congruent. And the symbol for that is congruent. And the reason we can figure this out is because we know the word midpoint. A point, line, ray, or other segment that intersects at its midpoint is said to bisect the segment. That point, line, ray, or segment is then called a segment bisector. So if a point, line, or ray breaks a segment right down the middle, then each side is equal. And so let's look at DE. Well, if D is at 0 and E is at 2, the midpoint of DE is at 1. Let's look at BD. B is at -7, D is at 0. Well, the midpoint here is going to be a little bit trickier. It's going to be at -3.5. Now, how did I figure that one out? Well, all I did is I added -7 and 0 and then divided by 2. So we're going to use that practice to help us do some problems in class. But what really will help us out is if we know that something is in the middle, then that means that this is congruent to this. And so in algebraic terms, I want you to think about and be ready to discuss tomorrow, how can I find the value of x if I know that b is in the middle of a and c? If you do know, go ahead and solve that problem. And if not, this will be what we lead into our discussion with tomorrow.